science, freedom, beauty, adventure. What more could you ask of life? Aviation combined all the elements I loved. As civilization advances, man grows unconscious of the primitive elements of life. He is separated from them by his perfection of material techniques. Time is an abstraction which, on Earth, exists only for the human brain and has evolved. I began to feel that I lived on a higher plane than the skeptics of the ground, one that was richer because of its very association with the element of danger they dreaded, because it was freer of the earth to which they were bound. Now, all that I feared would happen has happened. We are at war all over the world, and we are unprepared for it from either a spiritual or a material standpoint. On a long flight, after periods of crisis and many hours of fatigue, mind and body may become disunited until at times they seem completely different elements. Sometimes, flying feels too godlike to be attained by man. Sometimes, the world from above seems too beautiful, too wonderful, too distant for human eyes to see. We talk about spreading democracy and freedom all over the world, but they are to us words rather than conditions. This is Earth again, the Earth where I've lived and now will live once more. I've been to eternity and back. I know how the dead would feel to live again. While my hand is on the stick, my feet on the rudder, and my eyes on the compass, this consciousness, like a winged messenger, goes out to visit the waves below, testing the warmth of water, the speed of wind, the thickness of intervening clouds. Instead of agitating for war, the Jewish groups in this country should be opposing it in every possible way, for they will be among the first to feel its consequences. These phantoms speak with human voices, friendly, vapor-like shapes, without substance, able to vanish or appear at will, to pass in and out through the walls of the fuselage as though no walls were there. By day, or on a cloudless night, a pilot may drink the wine of the gods, but it has an earthly taste. He's a god of the earth, like one of the Grecian deities who lives on worldly mountains and descended for intercourse with men. After reading accounts of minor accidents of light, it is little wonder that the average man would far rather watch someone else fly and read of the narrow escapes from death when some pilot has had a forced landing or a blowout, than to ride himself. In honoring the Wright brothers, it is customary and proper to recognize their contribution to scientific progress. But I believe it is equally important to emphasize the qualities in their pioneering life and the character in man that such a life produced. I can't get used to the ease with which one covers the world today. It's no longer an effort polar equator ocean's continents, it's just a question of which way you point the nose of your plane. Wind, weather, power, load, gradually these elements stop churning in my mind. Then what am I of the body substance which I can see with my eyes and feel with my hands? True, the fragile bodies of his fellows do not weigh down his plane. True, the fretful minds of weaker men are missing from his crowded cabin. Why does one want to walk wings? Why force one's body from a plane to make a parachute jump? Why should man want to fly at all? People often ask these questions. Life is a culmination of the past, an awareness of the present, an indication of a future beyond knowledge, the quality that gives a touch of divinity to matter. Possibly everyone will travel by air in another 50 years. I'm not sure I like the idea of millions of planes flying around overhead. I love the sky's unbroken solitude. Man has risen so far above all other species that he competes in ways unique in nature. He fights by means of complicated weapons. He fights for ends remote in time. Lying under an acacia tree with the sound of the dawn around me, I realized more clearly the facts that man should never overlook. It is not the willingness to kill on the part of our soldiers which most concerns me. That is an inherent part of war. It was that quality that led me into aviation in the first place. It was a love of the air and sky and flying, the lure of adventure, the appreciation of beauty. We are disturbed about the effect of the Jewish influence on our press, radio, and motion pictures. It may become very serious. The life of an aviator seemed to me ideal. It involved skill. It brought adventure. It made use of the latest developments of science. We are compelled to work more hours per day, receive less pay per hour, pay more for what we buy, and receive less for what we sell. Is civilization progress? The challenge, I think, is clear, and, as clearly, the final answer will be given not by our amassing of knowledge. The idea of racial inferiority or superiority is foreign to me. I can't feel inferior or superior to another man because of race, or in any way antagonistic to him. Shut your eyes and you will know what I mean by thought entombed in darkness. Light comes through the senses, and not only through the sense of sight. The Jews are one of the principal forces attempting to lead the U.S. into the war. To be a true progressive, it is not sufficient to stand up and say that one believes in what has been promulgated as progressive principles. I'm not bound to be in aviation at all. I'm here only because I love the sky and flying more than anything else on Earth. Of course there's danger, but a certain amount of danger is essential to the quality of life. What freedom lies in flying, what godlike power it gives to men. I lose all consciousness in this strong unmoral space crowded with beauty, pierced with danger. My aging body transmits an ageless life stream. Molecular and atomic replacement change life's composition. Molecules take part in structure and in training, countless trillions of them. Individuals are custodians of the life stream, temporal manifestations of far greater being, forming from and returning to their essence like so many dreams. Any coward can sit in his home and criticize a pilot for flying into a mountain in a fog. But I would rather, by far, die on a mountainside than in bed. The manipulation of credit has been the most potent of all methods employed by financiers as a means of controlling commerce and fixing prices. If I were entering adulthood now instead of in the environment of 50 years ago, I would choose a career that kept me in touch with nature more than science. The forces of Hannibal, Drake, and Napoleon moved at best with the horse's gallop or the speed of wind on sail. Now, aviation brings a new concept of time and distance to the affairs of men. I believe that for permanent survival, man must balance science with other qualities of life, qualities of body and spirit as well as those of mind. I saw a fleet of fishing boats. I flew down almost touching the craft and yelled at them, asking if I was on the right road to Ireland. To a person in love, the value of the individual is intuitively known. Love needs no logic for its mission. Decades spent in contact with science and its vehicles have directed my mind and senses to areas beyond their reach. Aviation seems almost a gift from heaven to those Western nations who were already the leaders of their era, strengthening their leadership. Life without risks is not worth living. It may be interesting to note how many statesmen there are who believe that the cost of living can be reduced by making the people of other countries help to feed and clothe us. We are all consumers and should all be producers. In wilderness I sense the miracle of life. All mentally well-balanced persons know that we are not governed by the true principles of social justice when we make the main aim of our social existence the gaining of money. God made life simple. It is man who complicates it. Real freedom lies in wildness, not in civilization. Under the Federal Reserve Act, panics are scientifically created. The present panic is the first scientifically created one, worked out as we figured, a mathematical equation. Consciousness grows independent of the ordinary senses. From now on, depressions will be scientifically created. Success is not measured by what a man accomplishes, but by the opposition he has encountered and the courage with which he has maintained the struggle against overwhelming odds. In a time of war, truth is always replaced by propaganda. If I had to choose, I would rather have birds than airplanes. I grow aware of various forms of man and of myself. I am form and I am formless, I am life and I am matter, mortal and immortal. I am one and many, myself and humanity in flux. A certain amount of danger is essential to the quality of life. I would rather live one day in Maui than 1 month in New York. Why should anyone think a white skin superior in evaluating the qualities of human life? I did not really admire a white skin so much myself. Did I not prefer the brown skin that came with exposure to the sun? Science, freedom, beauty, adventure, what more could you ask of life? One boy's a boy, two boys are half a boy, three boys are no boy at all. Is he alone who has courage on his right hand and faith on his left hand? Isn't it strange that we talk least about the things we think about most? I realize that if I had to choose, I would rather have birds than airplanes. I believe the risks I take are justified by the sheer love of the life I lead. I know there is infinity beyond ourselves. I wonder if there is infinity within. The improvement of our way of life is more important than the spreading of it. If we make it satisfactory enough, it will spread automatically. If we do not, no strength of arms can permanently oppose it. I learned that danger is relative, and the inexperience can be a magnifying glass. Life's values originate in circumstances over which the individual has no control. Science intensifies religious truth by cleansing it of ignorance and superstition. The individual is at the apex of his species' past, at the entrance to its future. The remedy for our social evils does not consist so much in changing the system of government as it does in increasing the general intelligence of the people so that they may learn how to govern. I don't believe in taking unnecessary risks, but a life without risk isn't worth living. Peace is a virgin who dare not show her face without strength, her father, for protection. I hope you either take up parachute jumping or stay out of single-motored airplanes at night. Living in dreams of yesterday, we find ourselves still dreaming of impossible future conquests. Pilots are drawn to flying because it's a perfect combination of science, romance, and adventure. When the president signs this act, the invisible government by the money power will be legalized. I live only in the moment in this strange unmoral space, crowded with beauty, pierced with danger. We can so reconstruct society that it will be self-perpetuating instead of as now, self-exhaustive. Democracy can only spring from within a nation itself, only from the hearts and minds of its people. If one took no chances, one would not fly at all. Safety lies in the judgment of the chances one takes. In wilderness I sense the miracle of life, and behind it our scientific accomplishments fade to trivia. Is cruelty a moral judgment if it is fundamental to forms of life? Who is man to say that the workings of nature, and therefore of the divine plan of which he himself is part, are cruel? When I watch species other than my own, their instinct's wisdom is what most impresses and disturbs me. Flying has torn apart the relationship of space and time. It uses our old clock but with new yardsticks. We cannot allow the natural passions and prejudices of other peoples to lead our country to destruction. At the end of the first half-century of engine-driven flight, we are confronted with the stark fact that the historical significance of aircraft has been primarily military and destructive. To a person in love, the value of the individual is intuitively known. Love needs no logic for its mission. I don't believe in taking foolish chances, but nothing can be accomplished if we don't take any chances at all. Our survival, the future of our civilization, possibly the existence of mankind, depends on American leadership. But accuracy means something to me. It's vital to my sense of values. I've learned not to trust people who are inaccurate. Every aviator knows that if mechanics are inaccurate, aircraft crash. Whatever a man imagines he can attain, if he doesn't become too arrogant and encroach on the rights of the gods. Life is like a landscape. You live in the midst of it, but can describe it only from the vantage point of distance. At first you can stand the spotlight in your eyes. Then it blinds you. Others can see you, but you cannot see them. I have seen the science I worshipped, and the aircraft I loved, destroying the civilization I expected them to serve. Man is a mixture of desires that extend beyond his knowledge and often result in action conflicting with rationality. Man must feel the earth to know himself and recognize his values. God made life simple. It is man who complicates it. After my death, the molecules of my being will return to the earth and sky. They came from the stars. I am of the stars. Not long ago, when I was a student in college, just flying an airplane seemed a dream. But that dream turned into reality. Unless science is controlled by a greater moral force, it will become the Antichrist prophesied by the early Christians. I grew up as a disciple of science. I know its fascination. I have felt the godlike power man derives from his machines. Air power is new to all our countries. It brings advantages to some and weakens others. It calls for readjustment everywhere. The new law will create inflation whenever the trusts want inflation. From now on, depressions will be scientifically created. The essence of life, I concluded, did not lie in the material. It penetrated, but was not bound to, the physical world of science. I decided that if I could fly for 10 years before I was killed in a crash, it would be a worthwhile trade for an ordinary lifetime. Whether outwardly or inwardly, whether in space or time, the farther we penetrate the unknown, the vaster and more marvelous it becomes. A great industrial nation may conquer the world in the span of a single life, but its Achilles heel is time. Its children, what of them? Without death there would be no awareness of life, and the recurring selection and renewal that has caused life's progress would be ended. It is the greatest shot of adrenaline to be doing what you have wanted to do so badly. You almost feel like you could fly without the plane. I was astonished at the effect my successful landing in France had on the nations of the world. To me, it was like a match lighting a bonfire. The greatest danger to this country lies in their large ownership and influence in our motion pictures, our press, our radio, and our government. I owned the world that hour as I rode over it. Free of the earth, free of the mountains, free of the clouds, but how inseparably I was bound to them. What makes human power erupt like a volcano? What destroys it? The civilizations of Rome, Greece, Egypt, and China were all eruptions from a human core.